Everybody get their weight? You know, mic test. Everybody good? Check 1, 2. Good. Agree with the weight, everybody?
I think they passed pensions too. Yeah. But they, I don't know what I'm talking about. I guess they have, this is conference committee.
Oh.
Oh.
That was like, it was just an omnibus. So they have, I guess they just both house and no house. Unless it's different. I don't know if there's differences.
What do you guys?
What is file?
File, straight file,
Here.
to the governor.
Sorry, I'm a little slow.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
Alright.
Seven,
Thank you.
mostly non-controlled. 20 bills in process, which is fees, but there's also, I mean, this is 20, and there's also pension. That money for the top amount, the state covers, insurance. In case their claims are if your claim was the back road, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I like that as tall people, we always end up on the back thing, even though that just makes us taller. Yeah.
Well, that means we're gonna have to do a choir pose.
Yeah. We
A
want
prom pose.
everybody, we have our corsages.
Yeah, should we do that? I think I'm kind of taller. No, for sure.
No, I just was sick. If Tacky stands on this thing, he's gonna hit his head on the ceiling.
I know, I stand right here.
Maybe then here. Okay, this is your spot. We need every space. Every spot. I think I'm tall enough. I think I made it. Yeah. You should be a back.
You should be a back.
I always have to stand in the back.
Yeah, you
I feel like you can mention it in the context rather than trying to
All right. Hey, good. You can see we're excited to talk to you all. Good afternoon, everybody. I am Representative Cedric Frazier, District 43A, which is the cities of Crystal and New Hope. And you know, we're here in the last day, getting down to the final hours here of this session that we have to end, gavel out on this day. We know we're headed into overtime. We know that, but we're here to talk about the why we're headed into overtime. We started this session with the sole intent. DFL is here with the sole intent to protect the gains that we've reached over the last 2 sessions. Gains that we chose to specifically to make sure that we invested in Minnesotan and in Minnesotans. To make sure that folks have the protections they need when they need to take care of themselves and their families, to make sure that we're providing good job training for folks, that they can have a sustainable way of living for their families, to make sure that people are getting the resources and the care that they need through our healthcare system. The reason we are here now is because our Republican colleagues, and you've heard them say it multiple times, those are the things that are important for them to take away. They are drawing a bright line to say that Minnesotans, we care more about the profits of corporations, more about how much taxes corporations pay, and less about how you are being taken care of, less about the workers that those corporations need to be in those jobs. They care less about those workers being able to take care of themselves and their families. Specifically, heard Speaker Damov mention that paid family medical leave is still an open item. It should not be. There was a global agreement and she mentioned that the other day, that there was a global agreement and they were disappointed and that they didn't get much from that. That's their negotiating that they did. That's their issue. But now they want to reopen these things within the final hour. That is why things are being held up here. And there's multiple examples of that, and more of my colleagues will be speaking to that. And this is the cruelty that I talked about on Saturday, is that not only have they said, we want to exclude people from having access to health care, life-saving health care, but we also want to take away from all of Minnesotans paid family medical leave, that they need to take care of themselves, take care of their families, take care of loved one when times are tough and they're sick, but paid family medical leave will ensure that they don't suffer financial consequences. We specifically said we don't want Minnesotans make a decision between taking care of themselves and a paycheck. That's what the law is right now. That law will go into effect on January 1st, 2026. We have people right now that need that are depending on that law to go into effect as is right now. And we have our Republican colleagues saying that, nope, Minnesotans don't deserve that. Minnesotans do not deserve that. You know what we need? Tax breaks for corporations. That's what we need more of. We don't need more of that. As a state, I feel like as a state, we have always said we're going to take care of Minnesotans. That is the reason why we're one of the most affluent states in this country, because we have invested time and time again. Going back to the Minnesota Miracle, we have invested in the things that we know that matter, the things that we know to take care of Minnesotans, the things that we know that make our state great. And as DFLers, we will continue to do that. That means taking care of our workers. That means taking care of our families. That means taking care of our kids. Every bill that we've done has done that. The things that we pass off the floor now have continued to do that. But we have a GOP political party that does not see the value in investing in Minnesotans. They are more inclined to listen to what corporations are saying. They want corporations in the room to decide what legislation is going to be. We represent the people, and we want to have the backs of the people, and we will continue to have the backs of the people. And with that, I will turn it over to my colleague.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Representative Emma Greenman, represent Minneapolis. And I want to talk a little bit about something you guys have been following for a while, 3 years, in fact, the hourly school worker unemployment insurance and the GOP's push to end the access for unemployment insurance for the folks who feed, educate, and drive our kids and will drive eventually baby Una. These are benefits that for 80 years, most other employees have had access to, has been working to repeal the exclusion for 20, and in the past 2 years has been life-changing for those workers. But it's been on the chopping block because Republicans insist on taking things away from people, taking away worker protections, taking away benefits, and taking away power from workers. And that's what this is. Just like paid family medical leave, just like earned safe and sick, just like the ban on non-competes, just like when we talk about who is at the table in their negotiations, in every conversations we've been having, that's where they have been, and that's what we have been fighting. And this isn't about policy. This law has been transformative. We have heard it in our committees. We have seen it in the data. We have heard from workers. And we have also seen that when workers who make on average $17 an hour have access to unemployment insurance, to that economic security, they come back to these jobs that our schools say so desperately they are trying to retain. In the last 2 years, you have heard a lot less stories and probably printed a lot less stories about bus driver shortages for that reason. It's also not about the money. This cost a third less than what we had budgeted in 2023 when we thought 1 year was going to cost $138 million. And 2 days ago, we saw a 133-0 vote to fund it. So it is not about the money. What it is about is that the GOP's entire agenda has been about taking things away from our neighbors, from our most vulnerable neighbor in most cases, taking away worker protections, taking away access to health care, taking away access to time, to care, taking away those rights that allow them to thrive and be who they are in the workplace. To be clear, Minnesotans need and deserve the things we have been fighting for. And they deserve not to be pitted against each other, because that's the other thing that GOP has been doing. They've been pitting together workers against each other, pitting communities against each other, teachers against their paras. We just heard that on the pensions bill on the floor. Minors against bus drivers, communities who have access to health care against those who don't. our non-citizen communities versus our citizen communities. We know that communities are stronger when they are together. And that's what we are fighting for. We know we can't deal with making sure that everybody has a living wage if we are told that one group of workers are deserving of benefits, are deserving of economic security, while the other group of workers, it's just too expensive. Or worse, they are seasonal, temporary, or not good enough. So what you hear today is what has been clear all session. DFLers are standing up. We are standing up to protect workers. We are standing to protect all families and all communities. We will not acquiesce to Republicans' cruel agenda of taking things away from people. And whether that takes us the next 10 hours or the next 4 weeks, we will ensure that we are not cutting workers out. We are not leaving workers behind, and we certainly aren't going to roll back economic security for workers that some workers have access to and others will not. The DFL will not do that. And with that, I will turn it over to Nathan.
Well, good afternoon. I am Representative Nathan Coulter. I serve my neighbors in Eastern Bloomington in House District 51B, and I'm the DFL Vice Chair of our Higher Education Committee. Our higher education budget directly supports more than 250,000 students who are educating themselves so they can contribute to our state and our communities, including the 226,000 students at the University of Minnesota campuses in the Twin Cities, in Rochester, in Duluth, in Crookston, and Morris, and all 33 Minnesota state colleges and universities, and the over 70,000 Minnesotans who depend on our state grant program to pay for college. These students are our future workers and leaders. We need them. It took a lot of work and a lot of compromise, but we have a higher education budget conference committee report that every DFL conferee has signed. We could pass it right now. We have agreements signed by the Senate chair, both House chairs, and the Commissioner of Higher Education that would ensure that students have the resources they need to succeed and that our colleges and universities continue to be top-notch. Unfortunately, House Republicans have decided to build their barricade outside of the important work in this bill. They are holding it hostage in exchange for an unrelated process issue, an agreement to hold a joint convention on the election of University of Minnesota regents during the upcoming special session. Minnesota students and families deserve better than political power plays and posturing. They deserve to know that their leaders are putting them first, not partisan games. It's a ready-to-go bill, a bipartisan agreement, and House DFLers are ready to get it on its way. Now we need our Republican colleagues to put the diversions aside, to put aside the need to show that they can stick it to colleges just as well as Donald Trump, and for the sake of those Minnesota students and families, pass this budget tonight.
Our most vulnerable Minnesotans, our people with disabilities, and our seniors are counting on us to pass a human services budget. Oh, Representative Kim Hicks from Rochester, sorry. And right now what we're seeing is pitting our most vulnerable against each other, deciding who is worthy and who is not, but not based on their needs, not based on what they need, but based on the corporations that are paid to take care of them. Based on nursing home equity industry leaders who must agree before they can move forward. We are asking people with disabilities to bear the brunt of all of the cuts in human services because nursing homes are more powerful than people in the state of Minnesota. We must not move forward with a budget that cuts protections for workers in any space, including our nursing homes. We must not decide that people who work in nursing homes are less important than PCAs in homes. We must not decide that people who live in a nursing home matter more than a child with Down syndrome. And those are false choices and a false narrative that is being pushed by the House GOP. It is our responsibility to protect our most vulnerable, all of them. and to leave no one behind because someone's provider is paid more.
That's right.
Good afternoon. I am DFL House Floor Leader Jamie Long. All session long, we've been hearing a stark contrast between who Republicans are fighting for and who Democrats are fighting for. We're seeing that same dynamic play out at the end of session, as you've heard. Republicans and their corporate backers are trying to stick it to working people and roll back things that make their lives easier, like paid family and medical leave, earned sick and safe time, and unemployment benefits. Democrats are fighting for a future where we put more power in the hands of working Minnesotans, not powerful corporate interests. We want to give Minnesotans more economic security, and we fought Republicans' efforts to weaken, dismantle, and repeal progress for working families. Today, on the final day of session, Democrats stand ready to complete our important work on balancing the state budget, and we're calling on our Republican colleagues to stop holding budget bills hostage with partisan demands unrelated to the work of passing a budget. Republicans, as you've heard, are refusing to pass budget bills unless they can punish working families. Even though a leadership agreement fully protects paid family medical leave, Speaker Dameth said earlier today that the issue is alive, and we've heard this come up in multiple conference committees. This comes one day after Speaker Dameth acknowledged in a WCCO interview that the issue was settled at the leadership table and that the GOP got, quote, a very minor change. Republicans keep moving the goalposts. None of the GOP demands are necessary to pass a state budget bill. All of them will make life harder and more expensive for Minnesota families. And as a reminder, this is happening at a time when in Washington, D.C., the Trump administration and congressional Republicans are on the verge of kicking millions of Americans off of health care to pay for tax cuts for billionaires and to blow a huge hole in our state budget that may have us coming back for a second special session later this year. On top of the Trump tariffs, we're seeing Minnesotans be squeezed more and more with higher prices on health care, housing, and groceries. Democrats are focused on balancing our state budget for the future, reducing costs for Minnesotans, and putting more power in the hands of Minnesota families. And with that, we're happy to take any questions folks have.
So is the deal imploded officially?
Well, we are sticking by the deal. We heard there was a leadership agreement on paid family and medical leave, and yet we're seeing mixed messages both in conference committees where folks are still bringing this up, and even from Speaker Dameth, but maybe Cedric can talk more to what we're seeing on paid leave.
No, I don't think that things have been imploded. I think what we're seeing is another stall tactic to extract more from Minnesotans that need it the most. That is the most concerning thing to me, is that every time there is an ask to extract more, it is extracting more from those that need it the most. And that is really not a Minnesotan way of doing things.
Your caucus doing the same thing, you guys trying to get more out of the GOP at this moment?
We are negotiating in good faith to get budget deals done. We have signed budget conference reports that are ready to go up on the floor today if they would take away demands that are unrelated to getting the budget done.
But are there new provisions that your caucus is looking for at all?
What was that?
Are there any new provisions your caucus is looking for at this point at all?
Well, that's a pretty broad question, but what I'll say is that we're focused really on trying to protect working families, and we're focused on getting the work done of the budget, which is to make sure that we're funding state government. We care about our state workers. If we don't actually get these budget agreements done by June 1st, then layoff notices are going to start going out. I mean, this is very real to Minnesota workers and Minnesota families. These are real services that we care about, that state workers are providing, and we need to get these budgets done.
Going outside of the global agreement, I know a lot of people standing here don't like the give on undocumented immigrants on Medicare. Is that something you're still working on here too?
So I know that the entire team up here is heartbroken that that was something that GOP forced in negotiations. We're angry. And to be clear, the GOP demand for this is not about the budget, right? They've been trying to pretend that this has something to do with saving money. It does not save money. What saves money is giving folks preventive care ahead of time. We know that hospitals, faith leaders, community leaders, doctors, insurance companies have been asking for this because it saves money, because it is, when we're able to help people get care earlier, then we know that they're not going to be coming to the emergency room when they are facing a very serious, significant health challenge, which would increase costs for the whole system. So we're not done fighting for it, and we will keep fighting to make sure that we're protecting all Minnesotans and giving access to health care for all Minnesotans.
If I could let me just add to it. I think a real fundamental question that should be asked in a year where we need to balance the budget. That's our requirement right here, right? Why would the GOP be looking to make policy changes that will in fact cost Minnesotans more? That's the real question we should be asking here. And I hope that if they show up again, you ask that question. Why are you asking for policy concessions that will in fact raise taxes on all of Minnesotans?
So your contention is that ensuring these undocumented immigrants is actually saving money rather than?
Factual.
Absolutely,
Can I
absolutely.
just bring, I mean, I don't want to be difficult,
But you will bring that up. Go ahead.
They say that the projection to that date was 2.9 million or so, and the actual cost was 3.9 million. So it was actually, about 32% more expensive for the first 4.5 months.
So I can't speak to the validity of the numbers that you're putting out there, right? I won't even dive into those details. But what we know is that when there's uncompensated care, when there's uninsured that go into our hospitals, somebody's got to pay for that. Who pays for that? Taxpayers pay for that. When we give people access to preventative care, when they don't have to depend on emergency care to take care of themselves, we all benefit from that. That's factual.
And if I could add to so the projections are very closely in line with what they expected. We did see enrollment go faster than was anticipated, but not higher than what was anticipated. And what we're seeing is that rural hospitals and many hospitals around the state are under threat because of the uncompensated care. And so if we have rural hospital closed, that's not going to save the state money, right? If we have hospitals and other healthcare providers having to pay for uncompensated care, that's coming from somewhere, and that's coming from us. That's coming from taxpayers. So not only is this a humane thing to do, but this is the more responsible fiscal thing to do.
Say, given the 2024 election results, is it fair to say that it just isn't 2 years ago anymore?
Well, I think that is fair to say. I think that we're seeing the GOP is using their tie in the House to make every demand they can to hurt working people, right? We're seeing that with the paid family medical leave. We're seeing that with their demands in the budget negotiations. We're seeing that with, I think, the examples that were given in human services and in education, where what they're using their power for in this particular moment is to try to get concessions that are unrelated to the general budget and to helping fund our state.
So is it fair to say after the election that this is not as popular as it was in 23 and 24?
I don't think the message that anybody took from the 2024 election is people want less support and they want it to take longer. Like, that wasn't the message. They also, I think if you took the message that people want the biggest corporations to be writing bills and at the bargaining table, I don't think that was the message either. That was not the message that my Republican colleagues got. Certainly wasn't the message that we got. What we heard is that people want the systems that feel rigged against them to work better for them. And that's what we have been working on here in Minnesota. That's what we continue to try to work on. Our GOP colleagues in the labor bill, in the labor committee and the jobs committee, they consistently come, and the people who testify with them are the Minnesota Business Partnership and the Chamber of Commerce, the biggest lobbies in the state. They don't bring workers. They oftentimes don't bring small businesses. And so when we talk about the lesson of the 2024 election, I think what we're hearing is people want government to work for them. They want us to unrig the system. They want a democracy where it's their interests first. And I think that's exactly what we're fighting for. Unfortunately, the GOP has not gotten that message. They have not gotten the message because the people that they're fighting for are the biggest businesses and corporations, and that's part of the reason they're holding up the budget.
Maybe this is a question for leadership who's not here, but,
I'm leadership.
well, yeah, but, but I mean, like, did you get any of these policy agreements in writing? Because as the public, it's kind of hard for us to follow what's in, what's out of the negotiation when all we saw was one page with a bunch of numbers.
Yeah, well, the paid leave agreement was agreed to at the leadership table, and so that was not even contested by Leader Dameth, who yesterday said that it was agreed to and said they got very little for it. So on the one,
Nothing in writing?
there's nothing that I think we have available to give to press. But yes, it is an agreement, and I don't think Leader Dameth disputes that there is an agreement.
Is it true that they want to open up paid leave, but don't you all want to open up the undocumented healthcare too? Aren't there two issues that still could be outstanding?
The undocumented healthcare is not holding up any budget that needs to come to the floor today. We're fighting to try to make sure that we are getting our work done so that we are funding state government and we are making sure that we're helping state workers get the pay they need to do the important work for our state.
But you still want that part of the deal changed.
Of course we do, but that's not, that is not a demand that is holding up any budget bill at the moment.
So that travels alone, it lives or dies based on majority vote, but no other budget bills are dependent on the Minnesota Care.
I think that's still getting worked out, as Speaker Emerita Hortman mentioned. The healthcare conference is really just getting started, and so I don't think there's a final process decided in terms of what bills, what the final construct of that bill is to come before us.
Whatever happened to anti-fraud?
So, one thing I will say, oh, yeah.
It's coming. You've got a pretty good lineup here to be able to.
A bunch of us here, hey. Yeah, so Representative Dave Pinto, I'm the DFL lead for the Fraud Prevention and State Agency Oversight Committee. And I will say that a reminder that the work against fraud that my colleagues and I have been working on has been for many years. So 23, 24, there was so much progress made. And then in a number of bills, we had a press conference about a week ago, I forget exactly when it was, where we had different chairs talking about what is in their bills. So a number of pieces they're advancing in the state government bill and in the human services bill and others as well. And so I think we can be really proud of that work. And recognizing that, of course, we all want to make sure that public dollars are going to the people who need them. We believe in the power of government. We want to make sure that where there are fraudsters, that they are being blocked, and we have a strong package of that. But then at the same time, to make sure that ultimately the best way to have integrity in public programs is making sure that public dollars are going to people who really need them and their major needs.
So we're going to wrap up there so our folks can try to get.
Inspector, I think that is a bill that's I think moved in the Senate. I think there's still ongoing conversations. I did want to point out regarding what I just spoke about, of course, all those provisions in the state government bill and the human services bill, they require these budget bills to actually advance and to pass, and that's what we are focused on doing.
So we're going to go try to shake some of these bills loose, but thank you all. Appreciate you being here.
Fully fell asleep. It was like so hot.
I just kidding.
I loved it.
You should. That was really cool.